American politician Donald Trump, who has won the election, was opposed in the past, and he's likely to be opposed now as well by different section of society, and there are different reasons for different sections of society. For instance, feminist group might object to his what they call misogynistic attitude, and his comments or his thoughts about reproductive rights of the women. The conservative elements within American society threw their support behind him because they think that he's close to neoconservative who are close to the state of Israel as well and are sympathetic. There are Muslims who opposed him on the ground that he might be too close to Israel and he might give unbridled freedom to Israeli government to do whatever they want in Israel and sorry in Syria, in Lebanon, and in Gaza as well. But there are other Muslims who supported him and who believe that he might be someone who might put an end to the ongoing conflict that's going there. And there are critics who believe that Trump might not commit the United States in any conflict. And they say that it's true that he is perhaps the only president in the decades who did not trigger a new war. He did carry out some sort of reinforcement in Afghanistan, but by and large, during his last tenure, he did not trigger a new war, and he just wanted result and he wanted a pullout from Afghanistan. Uh, there are also the people from the American establishment, or what we call deep state or mainstream media, that are also opposed to Trump. They think that he might become autocratic, he might not pay more attention to the complexities of alliances, especially America's alliance with Europe. Trump might not consider NATO very important, which is like important to maintain political stability in various parts of the world. They also fear that he is going to be soft on Russia. During his last tenure, he did not seem to be picking any fight with Russia. He was rather sympathetic. He was not very careful about NATO and the complexities of America's alliance with Europe. And in a way, some of his detractors accuse him that in the past he hinted at giving unlimited freedom to Russia to do whatever it wanted with Europe. In a way, saying if Russia attacked Europe, that's not the concern of the United States. Uh, but there are other critics who believe that the Trump administration might extend limited assistance to Europe, provided that Europe or European countries live up to their promise of extending or increasing their defense budget. And Trump in the past objected to the defense budget of these countries, and he asserted that it should be what they had promised in the past, 2% of the GDP. And Trump did threaten that if they did not live up to their promise, he might be forced to reconsider US policy towards Europe. And that in reality forced a few European countries to increase their defense budget, but there are still who did not do that. And it is widely believed that as soon as a new administration comes into power, the European countries might be forced to increase their defense budget. So he's likely to be soft on Russia. This is what many critics believe, and this is something which is strongly opposed by the deep state, by mainstream media, who critics believe have thrived on Washington's enmity with Moscow. But he's going to tough on China. And again, it's not because of some strategic matters or strategic considerations, but he's strongly opposed to rising economic power of China. And in the past, his administration accused China of exploiting, you know, Americans' position on business matters and American markets as well. So he's likely to slap China with more sanctions, maybe more tariff. And in the past, he tried to revitalize manufacturing sector of the country, offering an olive branch to the companies, asking them to invest in America or bring back business to the United States. But many critics believe that it's very difficult because it flies the very logic of capitalism. Adam Smith, famously said that it does not make an economic sense for a company or for a country to make something for, let's say, $5, which can be produced in a neighboring country or in another country for $2 or $1. So China has got massive industries, and it can produce at uh, a very large scale. United States cannot do that because China is a 1 billion, is a more than 1 billion people's market, and United States could do so in the aftermath of First and Second World War because Europe got destroyed during those two terrible wars. These were also the times when the United States GDP witnessed a tremendous surge, and by 1945 and even a few years after the World War II, after World War II, its GDP was more than 40% and of the world, and now it is somewhere like 25% or a bit over than 25% or more than 20%. So it cannot compete because it does not, if a country can produce on a massive scale, mass production does make an economic sense. And since the United States cannot produce or cannot carry out mass production, it's very difficult for it to compete with China. And then it is also an uphill task for Trump administration to prevent companies, American companies, from investing in China. The recent reports of some Chinese think tanks suggest that American companies are still heavily investing in China, and they are interested in carrying out some joint ventures with Chinese companies, even with the companies that are run by the government. So it's very difficult for Trump to follow the rules of capitalism and at the same time carry out the policy of protectionism. It will be very difficult. As far as military industrial complex is concerned, that is likely to oppose Trump. But on the other hand, Trump does want to extend some sort of support to this strong lobby. For instance, he is definitely interested in selling US weapons. In the past, he did that with Saudi Arabia, and despite all pressure, he refused to cancel any agreement with Saudi Arabia. He struck a deal with Saudi Arabia of various projects that were worth around $400 billion, including weapons deal. And he also urged Japan to buy from the United States. So and naturally, he wants Europe to increase defense budget so that most of the European countries, apart from Germany, France, UK, and Sweden to some extent, they don't carry out defense production at a massive scale. And their defense industry is not as big as that of the United States. So naturally, if they increase their defense budget, they would be forced to buy more weapons from the United States. In the same way, if there is tension in the Pacific, of course, the four country alliance comprising US, Japan, Australia, and other countries that will the members of the alliance except the United States naturally will buy more weapons from the United States. So there is opposition to Trump, and it has different bases. Like feminist group are opposing him on different grounds, and military industrial complex or mainstream media or what we call deep state, they are opposing Trump on different grounds, and now it has to be seen how he deals with these uh, types of opposition.